Sorry, is that what you mean then, Scott? Is that what's going on here is not just simply theater? The United States is recognizing the bigger strategic picture. This is not just local drug gangs. These are large, sophisticated organizations that have the best weaponry. They have great lawyers that are doing bad things, you could argue, but they are clearly sophisticated as they move their agenda forward. And they're even linked to other countries, like the People's Republic of China, among others. Is that what you're getting at? So that's why they use the language, this is a war.
That's correct. I mean, the United States recognizes all of their threats, and from all the different levels of threat, from tactical to operational to strategic level threats, and the cartels operate within all of those parameters. The typical vision of the cartels is what you're seeing on Netflix, with guys cutting off people's heads and this kind of thing. And the reality is that the cartels are a very sophisticated group, and the security arms can be quite ruthless, certainly. But when you get to the top levels, it's Fortune 500 CEOs. When they're discussing business, they're talking about units. They're not talking about dime bags of dope and cocaine. This is a much bigger organization than people realize. When you get into trade-based and service-based money laundering, everything from avocados to Chinese electric vehicles, these things are all part of the larger picture and how it's being used to both raise funds for operations on North American soil, but also to fund other things and to undermine the ability of the United States to combat these things. These people have infiltrated every aspect of U.S. agencies. They have all the information on their employees. The capabilities that these groups have is the same as a nation state. So
okay,
they're being lumped in with the nation states that are doing the same thing. Hezbollah is an example.
All right, so this is a game-changing strategy then, because they recognize the threat that they're dealing with is like a nation state. It is driven by all kinds of business. So I need your help to kind of understand what's going on here in some of the basics then. And before I do that, I want to show kind of a visual representation of the cartels themselves in Mexico and the United States.
Trump's classification of Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations has triggered a massive escalation. Intelligence reports indicate cartel groups are stockpiling explosives along Texas border and refining paramilitary tactics. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum is seeking a close coordination with Washington, but if negotiations fail, the United States may consider large-scale military operations. Cartel networks maintain strongholds in California, Texas, Arizona, and expand distribution hubs in cities like Chicago and Atlanta. Estimates suggest these organizations generate over $20 billion annually through drug trafficking, illegal weapons sales, and money laundering. Their activities impose an economic burden of up to $200 billion, including costs for law enforcement, incarceration, and healthcare. Experts estimate that dismantling these networks could require 100,000 troops and cost around $50 to $60 billion.
Now, that's obviously an overview of a clip where analysts are basically making the point that these cartels, like you just made, are very significant players. They've infiltrated every level or organization within the United States in respects. They're really a national threat, but also they have a huge cost both monetarily, but most importantly on human life. The loss has been massive in terms of hundreds of thousands of Americans that have died the last 5 years due to fentanyl alone. So I guess my question then, Scott, is when you look at that kind of scale of organization, are you surprised that the U.S. is actually positioning military or striker groups? These are significant battle groups that are actually going along the border to position for what seems to be inevitable military action. Are you surprised by that?
I'm not completely surprised. I've worked in these environments previously, so in the Middle East, and also with what's called Jayad of South, which is a joint fusion center that involves a number of countries trying to fight narcotics and terrorism in Central and South America. So I'm familiar with some of these activities. I'm surprised that right now we're seeing as big a push towards actually achieving these things. A lot of times these are phased events. Right now, the United States seems to be on the front foot in all aspects globally, and that's something else. So it's not a matter of looking in one region. The United States is going after these things globally. They're looking at it everywhere, but especially any threats to continental North America. So that's another big issue. We see them off the coast of Venezuela. We know that there's been some movement there with not just the government, but also with some of the organized crime groups. And one of the important things to note is that Venezuela is also working with China and Russia and Iran. So those are indications that the United States is going to be looking at very seriously. They're not going to just keep monitoring like they have been and playing whack-a-mole, if you will. So when something comes up, they'll be able to do something about it. No, they're really taking a look holistically at how they can address these things. That's another issue when it comes to the internal side of things, because that's what we're seeing with these mass immigration deportations. Is it discriminate? Is it indiscriminate? I would say that, in my estimation, the United States has identified a lot of where the threat comes from, and they've come up with a plan on how they're going to deal with that. Removing people that are causing these issues and supporting those issues is one of the first steps in trying to, I want to use the word clean up some of the areas where they have concern.